Oh my gosh, is this really happening to me? Me? Delusional? Delusional means having a false, unrealistic beliefs. Yeah, right. I didn't know that telling the truth was a mental health issue. Me? Medically terminated? That means it's the end of my career. Permanently. No way am I going to accept this. This is wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. What is wrong with everyone? Please, God, tell me that this is not happening to me. Surely this is a nightmare and I'm going to wake up and everything will be okay. Unfortunately, everything was not okay. And yes, it was a nightmare, but it was also my reality. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Authentic Ingenuity Entrepreneur. My name is Minna Crichton. The terminology of medically terminated means it was the end of my career permanently. The only option I had was to challenge the decision legally. This decision also meant that I could not go on a job seeker's benefit until the medical terminated decision was legally cancelled. At this point in time, I was like, what the hell? Who is this doctor? Reality and anguish started to take its toll on me, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. Little did I know that the evil plot of what I was subject to, human trafficking by force, was going to get worse. During the employment investigation, I was asked to stand down and go on stress leave until a formal investigation was completed into the complaints laid by myself and the colleagues who complained about me after they realised that I'd lodged official complaints against them. Everything happened so fast. I wasn't even allowed to go back to my desk in the office and clear my personal belongings. I was actually taken out of sight whilst a formal inquisition was being established into the complaints. However, even though the decision and the settlement was sorted, yes, I won, and the medical terminated decision was officially legally cancelled, and I resigned, as the plaintiff, the victim, the appellant, and the applicant in this case, I am within my rights legally to clear my medical records because it is a completely different issue to the employment court. But in saying that, anything criminal changes the segment of the scene. It was Christmas period. I'd lost my job, my livelihood. The excitement of seeing my son come home from America after being away for almost a year was spoilt because my circumstances had changed dramatically. I had to move out of my 2-bedroom unit and move in with my family because I was now not receiving any income. Make things worse, I had to move and clean everything myself because everyone had pre-arranged holiday plans. And anyone that's moved house can appreciate where I'm coming from when I am talking about, moving, shifting, moving house and relocating. It's a huge job on its own, just for one person to do. yeah, so not only that, at this time, I also had to look for a lawyer to start a unfair dismissal process in the employment court. And that was my Christmas for 2015. So I go to the family GP to get my medical certificate renewed. She advises me that to get my medical certificate renewed, I had to go to the mental health services to be assessed by a doctor. At first I said, no, I'm not going to the mental health services. I was actually mad because I knew I was being set up. Then she tells me or advises me that it was actually law for me to go for an assessment so I could, get a medical certificate renewed. So basically, I had no choice. No medical certificate meant no income for myself. So I go to this appointment, to the pre-arranged appointment at their domain, where I was advised to go to a pre-arranged appointment by my doctor. I decided to take my mum with me to this appointment because I felt that I knew the seriousness of what I was going through was beyond, unbelievably serious. But I needed my mum to come with me as support, as evidence that I actually went to this appointment because I knew what I was going through. It was premeditated and definitely criminal. So I took my mum to this appointment, and I was seen by a doctor, and he had his own recording device and I had my own recording device, and by consent the actual assessment was recorded because it was consented by all the parties present at this time. And so there was 4 in total during this meeting. There was a doctor, myself, my mum, and another female lady known only to the doctor that was assessing me at the time. This recording was also submitted as an exhibit, as a legal exhibit, on the 28th of February 2017. There are actually 3 doctors that I pursued a legal notice of proceeding against. And so it was the doctor that did the mental health assessment that I did the recording with. And then the other one was the other doctor who saw me immediately after the first appointment, after the first assessment with I'll call him Dr. JJ. It's what I'm going to call him in this video clip. The second doctor was a female, and I'm going to call her Dr. C. She was the one who actually officially enforced the act after seeing me for like 3 to 5 minutes. The third doctor was I didn't meet her until the next day, which was the 5th of February. And I met her for the first time, and we had a meeting with 3 other students at this meeting. It was basically like an interview of why I was there and going over why I was there. Now during this meeting, I can confirm that they had no evidence at all. And if anything, she had brought up issues about the last time I had anything to do with the mental health services. She actually brought up the the assessment that I already gone through. That was the first assessment in 2009. So that's another reason why that assessment is in this claim, because she had brought that assessment up. And there was so much in there that I already knew was wrong. So that's what took place on the 5th of February. And then she asked me if she could speak to 2 members of my family. And so I arranged for 5 members of my family to come. Actually, 4 of them turned up, or 5 turned up, and a family friend. So 4 of them were in the meeting, and a family friend was in the meeting on the 9th of February 2017. The problem with this was that she never told me why she wanted to have a meeting with my family, and she didn't invite me in with this meeting. She actually left me out, so I didn't know what she was going to say to my family. It wasn't until after she had her meeting with my family earlier on that morning, and then she left, and I didn't even get to consult with her in any time before that meeting or in between. And when I went in that meeting, I felt in the environment when I walked in, it wasn't going to be good for me. My family had been, she had convinced my family that I needed to stay in there for another 2 weeks. And yeah, so I don't know what she said to them, but it really upset me when they told me that they tried to tell me to stay in there for another 2 weeks. I was really distressed, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was like, what for? I said, no. Of course, I was upset, but no one was listening to me. Whatever she had said to my family, she had actually convinced them that I was mentally needed to stay in there for another 2 weeks. Then she left, and I didn't see her again until the following afternoon on the same day at the court hearing before a judge. And she also tried to convince the judge. I mean, here's this woman, I had never seen or met her in my life. And, here she is abusing her powers, her authorities without, using her authorities without my consent or any medical evidence whatsoever at this time. I wasn't even on any medication at all, except for high blood pressure tablets. At that time, but that was all. So I didn't, so this is why I had her on the actual notice of proceeding in my civil case. So this third doctor, I will call her Dr. Jane. So we have 3 doctors. I'm calling Dr. JJ, Dr. C, and Dr. Jane. These weren't their real names, obviously, because of privacy reasons. I'm not going to mention their name. So I'm just using made-up names just for this video. I will be reading some quotes from the actual statement of claim that was legally lodged. But before we get into that, I thought I would just explain there was actually 2 notice of proceeding claims that were actually lodged, one on the 4th of July 2016 and one on the 28th of July 2016. So there were 2 of them lodged together. The first one, I had set out the names of the party individually, all 6 doctors individually care of the agency. Now there was a disputed controversy issue about the names of the parties at that time, and at the advice of the actual case officer, he advised me to change the name just to the agency. This is the second amendment of notice of proceeding. So I just wanted just to get the ball rolling, and they told me I had to pay an extra $75 just to have the names amended. So I did what he said, and I paid $75, and I amended it just the names of the actual agency. But regardless, I know that from experience, I've done these sort of things personally myself before, and according to the district court laws in my country, I was already, either way, they were both right. Because they were public servants, anything to do with public servants, it still falls on the company, even after the fact. So from the 28th of July 2016, I stuck with the amendment notice of proceeding format, where only the names of the actual agencies were on it, all the way to the end of the court procedure, because I'd paid for it and because I had gone through the process of the registrar, and it was all approved through the registrar process according to the district court laws, rules and regulation. So keep in mind, I've managed these cases myself. The only difference with this case was my own personal one. So that was the issue, one of the big issues during this court case that I was going through. So this health assessment is against these three doctors because of the misuse of the Mental Health Act, and to do with my medical records and the way they handled my case. And for anyone who doesn't know what the misuse of the Mental Health Act, in my country it's actually against the law for anyone to enforce this act on an individual without their consent or without any legal binding, medical reasons, which I believe they had none of it. They had made a massive mistake, but I have felt I was in a blacklisted human trafficking by force. I have definitely been deliberately isolated from work because they were leaving me out of emails, they were leaving me out of functions. I mean, I complained and nothing, it just hit a brick wall. They were belittling me, they were humiliating me in the office.
By doing what?
I felt targeted in the fact that they were, they were picking on all my faults.
Okay. Are they talking about
it? Yeah, it was brought up. Sometimes this is how, no other way to explain it, but I have felt like the focus has always been on my mistakes.
Okay.
I have a disability, nothing wrong with my head or anything, but I stutter and I go blank when I'm nervous or when I under pressure. And sometimes it just takes me longer to get my head around. I have a different way of learning. I'm a visual learner, but I've got an excellent memory. But if you put me on the spot about something, I can't recall straight away. But I recall later. I have an excellent memory. But my disability is that when I'm under pressure or nervous, I stutter and I can't pronounce the words properly. It's like getting stage fright, and I've messed up a few times with that, but I have told Matt, it's a humiliating thing.
How do they pick on your mistakes? What do they do? What do they do to you? How do they actually pick on what you have done?
They were doing serious health and safety things like okay, I'll leave it at that. The video clip that you just heard was the actual CD that I submitted as an exhibit for my case with Dr. JJ. So that was the actual official mental health assessment, and I just I've picked out a few portions of the actual CD that I felt was irrelevant for me to mention. Now the little clip that I just played now, I was telling him about my disability, so I wanted just to elaborate a little bit more on that. Even though I had called it a disability, it has never been medically confirmed by a doctor. I called it as a disability because it was one of my weaknesses, where I stuttered when I get nervous, under pressure, or burnt out, or put on the spot. I just go blank. It's like getting stage fright. And there was a period of time in my life where I was pretty bad. With the stuttering and the nervousness and the going blank. I gradually got really good. Got better as time went on, but I just thought I'd mention, because I'd called it a disability, just wanted to confirm that it's never been medically confirmed as a disability, but I used the word disability to describe my weakness, because that was definitely one of my weaknesses, with stuttering and going blank. So now I'll go on to another portion of the same video clip that I felt was really important, and I will talk a little bit more about it, and I'll play it for you now. Personal space. I mean, everyone has a personal space, and we all have our routine. And like I said, I've got an excellent memory. So, and I don't have little kids running around. So I have certain things I do that I know me I do, and there's no need for anyone to move it.
Has it ever brought back to the state that you thought about ending your life as a way out of this?
I used to be suicidal when I was young.
With this happening in your life, did you ever feel that?
No, it was just family violence, and the stress of my ex-husband, because I was to go to a women's refuge. So the stress that he brought upon me used to make me, cause stress to make me want to try and commit suicide. I tried, and I was in North Shore and my kids were little. I never tried again. Although the things that have been happening to me, I have felt that pain enough to do it, but I haven't done it or tried.
With the recent things that...
Yeah, with all the things that have been going on. I haven't tried it.
Do you think of it as an option?
I wouldn't do it. No way.
So how would you deal with...
Okay, just with that last video clip, that portion, I thought it was important to play, and that it was irrelevant to my case, was that I felt that the doctor had actually put the words of being suicidal in my mouth. So the actual video clip is about 50-minute long, but the whole actual video clip, it talks about me going through a sequence of what actually happened to me historically in regards to the cyberbullying and all the things that were going on and happening to me leading up to the actual reason why I was there. But this portion, I actually wanted the judge to listen to it, because he basically asked me about being suicidal. I thought he'd put the words in my mouth, but I wasn't suicidal at all leading up to that meeting. I wasn't depressed. I wasn't, if anything, I was burnt out. I was frustrated. I was stressed. I was traumatized with all the massive things that I was going through. I was going through all kinds of mixed emotions and mental anguish too, because of what I was going through was out of my control. But you can tell from the actual listening to the whole clip, that it was just a normal conversation, me going through, walking him through the actual the cyber bullying issues that I was actually going through, and describing in my own words what was happening to me, the abuse that was actually happening to me. But you can tell when he actually asked me, you know, about if I felt like doing it. Sorry, I haven't got the exact words, but I'll actually have that typed up of what was said, just in case you can't hear the video clip properly. So, and I actually responded with saying, no way, because I wasn't suicidal at all. I had no intentions of committing suicide leading up to that meeting. And yeah, so that was my evidence to prove that that they had actually made a mistake, and I thought it was actually really important and irrelevant information for my court hearing. Alright, on the 9th of February 2017, a notice of an objection for order of strike was submitted as an interlocutory application, which is just another name for a legal documentation. And I quoted the points, point 4, cause of action breakdown, point 7, bracket 2, asking the judge for a transcript of the hearing from Dr. JJ, because the one he gave me didn't match the one I'd actually recorded. In fact, the one they gave me had a different date on it, and I didn't, you know, I didn't agree with what I was given. So I actually, in this actual legal documentation, it was actually acknowledged by the judge that she had actually cited it on the 27th of February 2017. But this documentation had a run through of everything, of the whole process that I had actually followed through legally and properly. And I'd also asked for this actual CD to be heard in the court hearing on the 27th. But it didn't get heard in the 27th, but I submitted it as evidence anyway, as a, you know, I got it, you know, sworn as an exhibit, and I copied the actual CD, burnt it into a CD, and handed it in as an exhibit. So I just quoted that, and I'll just quote one more quote. On Thursday, 4th of February 2016, I was at the agency's name and seen by Dr. JJ and Dr. C for an assessment. The doctor with Dr. JJ was recorded by both parties, and all parties present at this meeting that were present consented to the meeting to be recorded. Dr. JJ had his own recording device, so this makes my CD a legit legal, you know, evidence, because it was by consent. The recording was actually by consent by all parties, because it's actually illegal to record somebody and you know, without their permission or consent, because that comes under espionage and privacy breach in the criminal jurisdiction. So you know, but what I'm trying to get, my point is that the CD is a legit legal evidence for my court case. Okay, now the next assessment was with Dr. C. This is straight after Dr. JJ, and I saw Dr. C for like 3 to 5 minutes, and then she enforced the act on me. And I'll read a quote from the actual statement of claim. Dr. C assessed me briefly and said that they were officially enforcing the Mental Health Act on me unlawfully. I said to her, "You're joking." Then it became clear to me that she was not joking, but was very serious. I said to her, "I didn't know that telling the truth was a mental health issue." she and the security guard followed me. She followed me and said that they were going to get a warrant and the police will come to my home and arrest me. I refused to go with the security and I kept on walking towards my car. They continued to follow me to my car and said that they were going to get a warrant and come and arrest me at home. I hopped them into my car and drove away. They actually said that twice to me. That's why it's written in there twice. I do not, this is in my own words, I do not believe that these doctors had sufficient evidence to use and enforce the Mental Health Compulsory Assessment and Treatment Act 1992. Now, I know every country or every, in every country, the laws are different surrounding the Mental Health Compulsory Assessment, Treatment and Act 1992, but in my country it's actually a criminal offence if anyone uses this act without any legal evidence, medical evidence or consent of the actual individual, whereas I knew without a shadow of doubt that they had no sufficient evidence at all. I felt that that I was subject to something purposed to ruin my reputation permanently. Then this is a quote of the incident that actually happened. On the 4th of February 2016 at or on about 11 p.m. to 11:30 p.m, this is the same day, later that evening, I was arrested by 2 police officers and a mental health services nurse. I was really upset at the fact that they were at my house to take me to the hospital. I recall getting angry at the police officer because I was having a private conversation with my son on my mobile. The reality hit me that they were going to come and take me, and they were going to take me by force because I didn't want to go. So the actual Mental Health Act, because I've case managed these cases myself, but the Mental Health Act is actually used for people who are actually mentally insane. What I mean by that, it's where people commit murder, real serious crimes, and then they're locked away from the public to keep the public safe, or to keep an eye on them, or they can't go to prison, so they're locked away. So this is why I freaked out, because I knew they'd made a mistake, and I was petrified. I was absolutely scared. Words cannot express how tormented and terrified I was at this point in time. But I had no choice but to go through it, and I was so frustrated because nobody would believe me, and I felt like I was begging my family to believe me and help me. In fact, I was actually begging, and I had no choice but to go. I recall ringing my daughter, and I didn't even sleep. The first night I didn't even sleep in there because I was so scared, and I got angry at my family for not believing me. I went through all those emotions of anger and frustration, just being completely ignored. And then it just got worse. Then the next day I saw the 3rd doctor. I've already spoken about what happened there, where she had convinced my family. It really upset me that my family, I felt like I was begging everyone to believe me, but no one could help me. I couldn't believe what I'd found myself in. And then the hearing, same thing happened in the court hearing. And this doctor tried to convince the judge. I actually wanted a recording of this court hearing because I wanted to prove that what I was telling the judge was actually true. They weren't false. They weren't things that I were just making up. They were actually true stuff. Now the recording also proved, because I went through a list of everything that I said, I believe it happened. My mum was sitting there. So she's evidence too that everybody, the people that I mentioned, in there, because my mum knew them too. And so I wasn't making it up. And so at the actual court hearing, I felt I was begging the judge to believe me, and I went through, I felt like, you know, I wanted them, I just felt that I was in a real dangerous place. They got me into a really dangerous mindset. At the actual court hearing, there was my sister, my brother-in-law, this Dr. Jane, the third doctor. I had a mental health lawyer, a specialist lawyer. I actually had a meeting with her before the actual hearing, and she was actually gobsmacked, was the word she had used, that they had made a mistake. And she said they could get sued for what they've done. And I already knew that. But she was in there. I had my mental health specialist lawyer. She was there. And I felt the whole thing was a setup. And then I had another friend. I have to say that he was the only one that believed me. Everyone else just ignored me, and they got me into such a really dangerous space. He believed me because what happened to me happened to him. The exact same thing, where they tried to medically terminate him also, but he got a lawyer before they could do that. But he was the only one that believed me, and I have to say he saved my life, because words cannot explain how I felt at that time. If they had locked me up for another 2 weeks, I just don't know. I was, you know, just the shock of how bad it was and what they, you know, put me through. Was very traumatic for me. But in saying that, what actually happened was I had the hearing with the judge. The judge wasn't satisfied to lock me up for 2 weeks. I couldn't even understand. The judge didn't even, you know, take me seriously. And all I could think of was somebody has switched my medical records. Because, you know, that was very serious what they did. It was intentional, and it was premeditated, and I have to say that my whole circumstance with all the cyberbullying that I've gone through, it has definitely been like a suicidal pact, where I've just been completely outnumbered, and I've had no control of my circumstance since I've lost my privacy. So that's the end of this mental health assessment. So I'll end it at there. And so in total there's like 3 separate medical assessments issues that I've gone and walk you guys through. There's a lot of good tips on what's happened to me to make sure, you know, to help yourself out. But I'll leave it at there. And I'll see you in my next video clip, where I will answer the questions with the common sense questions that I put out on the last video clip. Okay, I'll see you in my next video.